Hey everyone, welcome back to Exotic Car Hacks, and today on the channel we are taking a look at my latest arrival, a 1998 C4S with an original factory Aero Kit. I mean, if this isn't a rare find, I don't know what is. This car only has 33,000 original miles, and it is beautiful. And you know what else? It's really old. You know, one of the best things about old cars, which you guys know I don't do a lot on old cars, but one of the best things about old cars, you know, people will tell you it's like the sticking through the gears and the speed and the analog feel. Nah. Let me tell you what is the best thing about an old ass car. It's this. The smell of a real old school player. I mean, like, this is as old school player as it gets. Because you have to understand that back in '98, if you owned this shit, you were a player. I mean, a real player. Like, you were the dude that showed up and all the women were like, who is that? Oh my God, that guy is amazing. And they didn't even know anything about you. You could have a gut, you could have a small cock, it wouldn't make a difference.
What did he smell like? What kind of cologne did he wear? Like black suede?
No, I don't even know what black suede, what is black suede?
It's an old school cologne back in the day.
Like what the fuck is black
It smelled
suede?
like Hennessy and a cigar.
Who the fuck, what is black suede?
Black suede.
Anyways, yeah, I don't think anybody was wearing black suede in this. I think maybe like the old school Armani or something. Like you were really like Arab with the extra beard and everything. You were running to, you know, yeah, it was nice. Anyways, so the coolest shit about old cars is the smell. I mean, it's just intoxicating. You just really feel rich when you drive it. And what's really funny is now that it's technically the same as before, because, you know, this was like 70, 80 grand back then. And that was a lot of money, and today it's like 180 grand, and it's still a lot of money for an old-ass fucking car. But, you know, what's really incredible is driving cars like these brings you back to how much you appreciate how far automotive technology has gone over the last decade. I mean, it is brutal. I mean, first off, this is the key. The best part about the key isn't even the key. Who cares? It's a shitty key. My Ford GT looks even worse than this. But the best part is they used to have these things so that people don't steal the cars. So you had to click it to undo the immobilizer on the car so that you could turn it on. And it's like it took me like 20 minutes to turn it on because I forgot this shit existed. I had this on my 97 Ferrari 552, and I was like, what the fuck is this? It's stupid. But it just, back then it was such a thing because you didn't want people to steal your car. And like, it's so weird. It's got a cassette player, which I'll show you, but you know, we're going to talk about this car because I fucking love this car. It like brings you back to these feelings. But listen to the other best part about this, because my Jaguar did this too. Listen to this. You hear that? You hear that resonating? You hear that? Yeah, that's the sound of fucking metal doors. Like, you don't get that shit anymore because everything's plastic. And you don't get that dong, like something's going to break in the car. It's like stupid. It's like so good, and it's so old. So let's talk about the outside real quick. It's like so stupidly good. But I want to talk about a couple of things that make this car quite interesting and bring you back to like the old school player days. You know how you have gutters on your house? Like you have gutters, right? Like shit pours in, water pours in, and it prevents it from getting in the window. Well, we don't have gutters anymore in cars, but this car has a gutter. You see, like, so when water falls here, it just hits the gutter and it goes here. And it prevents the water from getting in the car. It's really smart. And it's not a design flaw because it follows the line here all the way to the aero wing. It's like really good, but like we don't have this anymore. You don't have gutters on cars anymore. It's like someone was like, how do we prevent the water from getting in the car? And it's not aerodynamics, it's a gutter. It's like so epic. Like, who else can say they have gutters on their cars? Like, yeah, it's just like unbelievable. But on the outside, I think the best thing about the 98 is it was a final edition C4S. This one is in incredibly good condition. All the seals and stuff around the edges, you know, are in mint shape. The whole front has been PPF. You know, hasn't had any accidents or anything. So quite a rare gem find. Even has these halogen lights, which are now completely outdated, and they're not crusty and old like a lot of old cars. But this is pretty much what I would consider probably the best of a C4S example you can find with 30,000 miles. And truly, truly incredible. Like, paint shape is amazing. But let's not talk about it. Let's talk about the features of the car that make it so cool. The other thing that I want to point out is the Aero Kit gives you this like incredible wing, which is, you know, usually found in a turbo. The C4S gives you the wide body, and then of course you get the Aero Kit continues in the front, coming to the back. You get this big, I don't know if you guys remember, but you know, the way you got this big ass tail light was because you had a 4 like the wide body. And this continued for years later until recently, where they kind of said, fuck this, it doesn't matter anymore. But this is really fucking cool. I mean, this is as cool as it gets for an old ass car, because like you have to understand, you were really rich back then to drive this. I still feel rich as fuck driving this, but probably more because of my own nostalgia rather than people on the street looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing driving an old ass car? There are the connoisseurs that still know what this is, and they're like, this is cool. It's very, very pretty, whatever, but it is what it is. Now, I want to show you the inside, because you got to see this. This is pretty fucking incredible. First off, the handle has this extra latch. It's not integrated in the door handle or anything. It's like literally sticking out here. You can see it. And you have this button, but here you do it, and then boom, everything's open. So this right away, and we're gonna kind of go inside because you got to kind of understand how this works. But right away in the door, you'll see everything is like leather. It's just amazing. It's got a digital sound processor in the door. Like, look at this. Like, this is incredible. Nokia digital sound processor. Like, who does this shit? Like, I didn't even know Nokia made audio equipment for this. Anyways, these are your buttons up and down on the doors and your tweeters. Look at how everything was so simplistic. Your big speakers here. This is your little adjustment for the for the little mirrors, and then your like immobilizer here. But here's the best part. So as we get inside, I want you to see this. The leather's in pretty good shape, but so you have a clock here that's literally the size of your like other gauges, but it's a clock in case you can't get places, because I guess at the time all the old school players didn't have, you know, like Rolexes and APs and shit on, so it didn't work that way, which is pretty cool. You have an ashtray, like who fucking smokes? We're in 22, but hey, they did back then. And the way you pop the gas cap right there is, look at this, boom, you have a little button here. But then take a look at the gas cap. I want you to see this. Look at how cleverly nice this is. Look at how back then manufacturers gave a shit. Look, you have this little soft little thing to prevent any, you know, spillover, or this like goes right here, so you prevent the thing from damaging the car. And then you open and you pump gas and you put it back. Like decency, like manufacturers used to give a shit. This is brilliant. Like, I'm telling you, it's like brilliant. I'm getting a kick out of this car because it's like amazing. So anyways, so then you want to turn it on. Obviously you have to put it in. Yeah, you get it? You put it in. See, doesn't work. Nothing happens. So you come back down here, and yeah, we're listening to old school music. You press the immobilizer, and then it works. It's like it just works. Now I want to point you to something that's even more interesting. The AC controls, you can barely see them down here. They're all hidden, you know, in the back, but they work. There is AC. It works pretty well. It takes a little bit longer to cool off, which you would expect. Nothing out of norm here. The headliner is not falling off. It does have a sunroof, which is cool. You have little buttons here, which pretty cool buttons. I mean, you have everything from your sunroof open to your door lock to your hazards. And that's basically it. It's a pretty simplistic car. The dash is simplistic, which is pretty good. And there is no cup holder, which is the way it should be. Cars shouldn't have cup holders. But even back then, people were smarter. Now they're distracted, right? But here's the best part. Look at this. You can take off the head unit in case, so that someone doesn't steal it. If you're old enough to remember this, well, you remember this, Reggie? This is the shit, man. Like, yeah, because people were stealing stereos. This is so good, like so good. This is such an old school player. Like, imagine you're going to the club and you're like, "Yo, honey, I'm coming out. Let me put my stereo in my pocket." So while you're at dinner, basically you're like this. Like that's That's fucking awesome. It just reminds you of what life was like back then, you know? And so we're gonna put that back so before it explodes or whatever. So that was awesome. That was amazing. But I want to show you something else, and I want you to get in the car for me to show you. So get on that side. So the best part about the inside of this car is just this. Look at how close we are to each other. Like, literally, Reggie is in the car, and he's like shoulder to shoulder with me. Like, this was what cars were back then. You didn't have that distance between two people. And this was good for a couple of things. One, it made blowjobs so much easier. And while Reggie here is not going to give me a blowjob, what I'm saying is that in a normal person situation where you have a chick here, and you're an old school player, you're out, and it's 1998, and you're really rich because you have a Porsche, this was the time where it was easy to get head. Like, it is so easy to get head in this car. It's like brutal. You don't even need to be, there's no back seat. There's back seat, it's worthless. But the whole argument is that it's so small and compact, yet the dashes had such little safety things all over them. So the distance here between this dash, and you can show them this, is like basically really, really tiny. And that's what makes it so awesome. Like, it's so small and it's so cool that it's just like super freaking cool. Every part of this car just reeks of coolness and amazing old shit that brings you back to this era where you were like, wow. And here's the part that's good now, because we're in 2022 doing this review of a 98, which is now probably about 15 years old. The point I'm trying to make here is that this is the perfect blend of old but not too old. Meaning it's not so old that you can't use it in 22 or feel like it's weird. It's not that vintage yet. So I'm gonna go for a very quick drive right now so you can see kind of the feel, because this car is slow. It's not, and you see his ass is literally on my like handbrake. I'm serious. And his leg is literally hitting, you can't see this, but it's literally hitting like my 6-speed little lever there. So I'm gonna drive here so you can kind of see or hear out like how crazy this is. But first off, you can't hear anything but the AC in the car. And that's something else we don't get anymore, because now you can hear the motor and everything's loud. And this car, full throttle, still, you can't hear shit. Like, I mean, there is a little bit of engine noise, but it's really not like that exciting or anything, you know? It's just kind of like junky. And, you know, it shifts really good. The clutch is really good and clean still, again, probably because of the lower miles. The stereo, probably useless in a way, but still, I'm sure in 98 this was the shit. You know, it had like 10 speakers and stuff, so it does a lot. And there's this little button here which has a little clock here, and you would wonder, what does that do? Well, that changes the clock, and the way you adjust it basically by pushing this, and it goes up like 5 minutes at a time forward, or you can hold it. It's really bizarrely interesting. The bizarreness of this, you even have a cigarette lighter, you have your defroster, you have your AC controls. I mean, it's just so good. It's so good to go back to this era where things are just so amazing, you know? I just love, love, love this car. I think it's amazing. I mean, I think it's just, listen to this. Yes, you see, nothing happens. Exactly, nothing happens. You didn't go, whoa! No, your ass didn't come behind your seat, like your dick didn't get hard, nothing. It's just a normal car. And it's a normal car because we're used to things going 0 to 60 in like 1 second and completely dominating everything on the road, but this doesn't. It probably takes 5.5 to 6 seconds to get to 60 miles an hour, and it was supposed to be fast back then, and that's what makes it amazing, is that you can truly not really connect with the road, but actually understand what's happening. And here's the best part, you can actually see the tachometer moving, because the car doesn't move so fast that the fucking thing is like 9,000 RPMs within 1 second, like every other exotic. So you can actually feel that you matter in the equation of the drive, and a lot of the stuff doesn't really matter in today's car market. I mean, any cars today, like, they just don't matter at all. You're just like there, and you're just there to press buttons. You're not there to really drive or function. You feel every bump with this. You feel everything going on. And here's the best part about it. This is in 1998, right? And I'll tell you something really amazing about that. It has less rattles in it than some modern Ferraris that are like 2020s. Like my 812 GTS was a shitbox when it came to rattles. And I couldn't understand how Ferrari made a car that modern with so many rattles. You would sit on the seat, it would go click, 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 click. But this doesn't. Like, it's just really good. It's really fast. You hear that? And nothing happens. Oh, and there's a weird old guy in the corner of the road just sitting there. Why the fuck is he sitting there? Like, there's no reason to sit there. Anyways, back to this. So in short, this is as glorious as it gets because it just brings you back to an era that has not only ended, but I also feel, actually, this is a funny story, I also feel a lot of what we've been covering lately on Exotic Car Hacks has been focused on talking a lot about the changing markets and what's happening in the world around us, right? And how the cars are changing because they're no longer going to be engines and they're going to be electric in this. And I think that's what, again, was so special about this era. It was analog. The new era is engine, and the final era then is electric. But I think that what's incredible is this brings us back, and I feel that's why modern exotics today can not only be appreciated because of how incredible they are and how much ahead of this they are, but also because they are in their own era. So this was, to me, when I didn't have money, this was the prize car, right? This was what made you feel rich, look rich. This was what was amazing. Today, many of you guys look at Aventadors and stuff as that car, but this was it for people that are old like me, that are almost 40, you know? This was our kind of grail, old school player, super cool car. You were somebody if you had one of these. So, you know, 20 years later, I finally got one, but again, just really, really cool car. Very interesting to come back to this era. And again, remember, car hacking can work with new cars, even easier with this older stuff because it's more collectible. This is currently a $250,000 car. It will go up to $500,000. That's why it's here. This is all about the investment and the power, but also the enjoyment, right? It's not just about parking cars and never driving them. It's about using them, enjoying them, and still being able to come up on top rather than be a consumer and lose money. So if you want to learn how to hack cars so you can buy cars like these and not lose any money, click the link in the description and take the free training. I've been teaching car hacking for like over a decade now, and it just worked. It's worked for 18,000 plus people. It'll work for you too. And of course, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and let me know, was this, or is this the coolest Porsche of its era, or is there a cooler Porsche than this from your perspective? Put it in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next video for Exotic Car Hacks.